Good morning and welcome to Cincinnati Issues. I'm Lincoln Ware. We're here every Sunday morning, 6:30 on Star 64. We've got a great show lined up for you today. My first guest, Lisa Smith from Crime Stoppers. Welcome to the show. I've been trying to get you on the show for over a year.
Thank you, Lincoln. I'm glad to be here.
Lisa Smith. And we got Hope Dudley, and she is a victims advocate here in the city. Everybody knows Hope Dudley, and she's been out there fighting and trying to get people to turn these criminals in that's out there killing people and doing some bad things to people. Of course, Lisa, you with Crime Stoppers and that organization, I mean, you give out a lot of money every month for people calling in with tips. How's it going? Let's say from the past year up until now, are things going well? Are people still calling in?
Absolutely, Lincoln. I'm still impressed with the number of citizens that are out there still working with the police department, trying to get bad people off the street. We average between $8,000 and $10,000 in Crime Stopper tip reward every single month.
Now, do you still run into people who are a little skeptical? I don't want them to know I'm calling to turn it in. I know there's a way you can tell who's on the other end. Or do you still run into people that think that?
Yes. Sometimes when people call, the first thing they say is, you know, I don't want anyone to know who I am. And so I have to reassure them that our calls are not recorded. We have an old-fashioned phone where we don't have caller ID. So the only way anyone knows that tipster has called is if that tipster starts telling people, after they're rewarded, if they start telling people like, or bragging about it themselves. But we still have people that are skeptical. But that's the main reason that Crime Stoppers was started in the first place, so that we could encourage people to still contact the police and remind them that they get to remain anonymous.
Yeah, and even when the payoffs occur, I mean, you've changed the way you handle the payoffs recently, but in the old days of Crime Stoppers, you used to meet somebody at a corner and give them a brown paper bag.
Absolutely.
Or an envelope or something.
Absolutely.
They were in plain clothes also, not in a uniform.
Absolutely. We'd show up at an undisclosed place and we'd have an envelope, not necessarily a bag, but
it sounds more intriguing, a brown paper bag with cash in it.
Well, we'd have to have 22 of those bags, and that would look bad, right? So we would have an envelope and we would show up. But as we've evolved in Crime Stoppers, we've got better about it, and now we use banking systems, and the people still get to remain anonymous.
Right. They just go into the bank and
give their
do
tip
what
number.
They do, right? Give the number and they get paid and they walk on out the door, cash money. There's no check, there's no paper trail or anything like that.
Not at all.
Now, I hope you've been with Crime Stoppers for a long time. You showed us a poster back when your son was killed, a poster that Crime Stopper had, and it was nothing like the posters of today.
No, I've been with Crime Stoppers, this is my 10th year. And the flyer I had did not represent who my son was. And as I began to do my own reward cards, people were asking where they're coming from. And my children would say, well, my mother is printing them, so I start printing them for other people, putting Crime Stoppers information on it. A lot of times I'll just put rewards on it, unless I know that Crime Stoppers have a specific amount, then I will put that amount on the cards. But after then, I became a NAACP member that sat on the Crime Stoppers board. Now I'm on the Crime Stoppers board under my own organization, UCanSpeakForMe, and we try to print information for families of unsolved homicides within 24 hours of the homicide.
And just like we were just looking at Alexandria Thompson, we were just looking at the poster for her, the $2,500 reward that's out for her, and I just still can't believe that no one has called in a tip, know anything about that murder there.
Well, the community actually can solve crimes. We have more cases solved in the city of Cincinnati than unsolved. And when my son was murdered, it was like 68 homicides. All of them were solved, but 19. So I know that they are actually solving cases and people are coming forward. And it takes these flyers out in the community so people can know, hey, we're still looking for these people that murdered this child or this woman or this man. So just keeping the information out there fresh.
Because you not necessarily you're going to get the tip right away. Sometimes it takes months before you get a tip.
Yes, and sometimes it may come from prison.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with more in a moment. And we are back with Hope Dudley and Lisa Smith. Coming up later on in the show, we've got Victoria Strawn from the University of Cincinnati. You ever thought about getting into one of those clinical studies? Well, everything you need to know before you get into a clinical study, we'll tell you about that coming up in just a few minutes, so stick around for Victoria Strawn, better known to many as Sister V. She'll be here on the show to talk about clinical studies. Now, back to Crime Stoppers. Now, Hope, you got some cards that you printed, that you had made, playing cards, and tell us about that whole situation.
Well, the first deck of playing cards was printed by the Cincinnati Police Department after writing them letters, but no information or next of kin was gathered. So it took 7 years to get information from every family on the deck of cards, giving permission for them to go in all the jails and Southwest Prison. So as of today, they're in every ODRC, every Talbot House, Justice Center, and Butler County. And the cards went in the Justice Center March of last year, and Christmas time, case was solved.
So I guess the inmates were playing cards, and somebody happened to see somebody on the card that they knew who participated in the crime, and they turned them in.
Yeah, well, they actually came forward and confessed that they had actually murdered someone.
Really? Wow.
So they're getting around, and inmates are playing them. And matter of fact, I just delivered 700 more decks to the Justice Center.
Okay. Now, how did you get that idea? Who came up? That's a pretty good idea.
I got it from a lady whose son was murdered in the Florida Keys, who got my number from one of the wardens in ODRC. And she called me, and I bought a deck, and then I bought 20 decks and mailed them to people about funding it. And of course, the Cincinnati Police Department funded the first deck of cards, but they could only go in Talbot houses. So after that, I actually funded them myself and put them in all the prisons and jails. So our partnership with the ODRC brought it about.
Now, let me ask you, Lisa, what if somebody's out in the club having a good time and they see somebody that they heard on Crime Stoppers and they're wanted, and what if they step outside, they call Crime Stoppers, say, so Joe Blow is in the club here, what happens from that point?
Well, it would be very important for them to be able to give a great description of that person. They should give a good detailed description, because if it's in an open place like that where a lot of people, but once they call Crime Stoppers, it goes, if it's after hours, it goes to our board, who has a direct link with 911, and they will go ahead and they'll dispatch police. But we also have a great fugitive apprehension team, so we'll get the information. Theoretically, we'd send it to our fugitive apprehension team, who would go set up on the place and get that person arrested.
Because, I mean, you just have a bunch of cop cars out there. The guy gonna say, oh, something's up. So you, So
if it's something right now, you know, of course, 911, but if it's something we feel like we've got enough time to get our fugitive apprehension team in place, then we would do that. And Lincoln, just as a reminder to everybody that's watching this morning, Crime Stoppers is a partnership, and I say this 50 million times. We love victim advocates like Hope Dudley, who sits on our Crime Stoppers board, who is awesome, but we need more awesome people to come out and take part on the Crime Stoppers board, because it's a partnership with the media, the police, and the citizens.
And you also need donations, because without those donations from the different companies out there and the individuals, you can't operate Crime Stoppers.
Absolutely, because it's nonprofit, so it's not tax dollars that pay the rewards. It's actually, and there's our information. If anybody is listening and wants to send in a tax or a donation, they can send it to Crime Stoppers at P.O. Box 14330, Cincinnati, Ohio 45250, and they can deduct it on their taxes.
Okay, all right. I'll tell you, it's simple as that. Crime Stoppers 352-3040, and if you're out of town, that number will still, just dial 513, and that number still works, and you can still do whatever you need to do.
Absolutely.
And one guy that I was hoping somebody turned in for the longest, that's the guy that hit
Dangerfield.
Did the hit and run, killed a young lady right there on Reading Road, and left town.
Absolutely, and there was an increased reward for his arrest, and he got arrested on a fluke traffic stop out of town.
Lisa, thank you very much for joining
you.
me. Hope, I'm glad you could make it also. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We'll have to have both of you back again.
Absolutely.
We'll take a quick break and we'll come back with more in a moment.